In this video, we're going to talk about the most optimal way to save an emergency fund. Building an emergency fund can feel a little overwhelming, especially when you work the numbers for the first time and see the total amount you need to save. This is especially true if you're also carrying debt. Figuring out whether to save, pay off debt, or invest can get a little confusing. I recommend breaking your emergency fund goal down into 3 milestones, and we'll walk through each of those milestones now. Let's dive in. Milestone 1 is to save up 1 month of essential expenses. Think of this as your starter emergency fund. You might have heard the suggestion to start with saving $1,000. And while that's a lot of money, let's be realistic. According to a recent study by Lending Club and Payments, the average emergency expense is around $1,400. So $1,000 would fall short of covering most emergency expenses. A lot of emergencies are medical emergencies. And so if you have a high deductible health insurance plan in the United States, $1,000 won't even come close to covering the insurance deductible you're required to pay before your health plan starts kicking in to help with covered costs. Also, considering rent and mortgage payments are now well over $1,000 a month, a $1,000 starter emergency fund isn't exactly going to provide much relief in an extreme case like if you lose your job. And the thing about emergency expenses is that they don't typically rock up solo. They're like an unwelcome guest to a party that drags its friends along too. For instance, if your home floods due to a burst pipe, you'll not only have to pay for plumbing repairs, but also potentially have to bear the cost of temporary accommodation. These days, $1,000 isn't enough of a safety net, which is why I believe aiming for 1 month of essential living expenses is a good first milestone. This will give you a little more breathing room and protection from having to rely on high interest debt like credit cards and personal loans when an emergency arises. This whole process is about ensuring your financial well-being during potentially stressful times. And so before you do anything else, make saving at least 1 month of essential expenses your top priority. Milestone 2 is to pay off high interest debt. I define high interest debt as anything that costs you over around 7% per year in interest. And things like credit cards, personal loans, payday loans, all fall into this category. The reason we prioritize these debt repayments over further saving is simple. If the interest on your debt exceeds what you could potentially earn in the stock market, which historically averages around 7 to 8%, it's best to eliminate that financial burden first. It's all about opportunity cost and determining the most effective use for your money. Now, I won't be going into debt repayment tactics today, but I'll be creating a separate video specifically dedicated to that topic, so keep an eye out for that in the near future. Once you've paid off your high interest debt, congratulations! Make sure you celebrate this liberating milestone before moving on to milestone 3. Milestone 3 is building your emergency fund to your desired level. Remember the amount you calculated using the steps in part 1 of this series? If you missed that video, I've linked it right over here for you. Let's say you're aiming for 8 months of essential living expenses. Since you already have 1 month saved up from milestone 1, your goal now is to save an additional 7 months. By the time you complete milestone 3, you will be free from the shackles of high interest debt, and you will have built up an emergency fund that's ready to tackle life surprises head on. It's an incredible achievement, and it's your moment to enjoy a sigh of relief as well as a round of applause. But what about investing and paying off low interest debt? In my opinion, it's best to prioritize completing milestones 1, 2, and 3 before you think about investing or paying off low interest debt. The only exception to this rule is if your employer offers a matching program. In that case, I'd contribute just enough to maximize the match while simultaneously paying off high interest debt. Why? Because your employer match is essentially free money, and we don't want to leave that on the table. When it comes to your low interest debt, you should prioritize building up your emergency fund to the level you want before accelerating your low interest debt repayments. To be clear, as you go through the process, it's critical to keep up with the minimum payments on all your debt. Remember, these milestones and steps aren't a one-way street. Life happens and you may need to adjust your plans along the way. Let's say you're diligently paying off your high interest debt, but an unexpected emergency arises and you have to dip into your starter emergency fund. It's okay. Your focus shifts temporarily and you'll need to go back and replenish the fund before continuing debt repayments. Similarly, if you find yourself building up credit card debt while in the process of reaching your desired emergency fund level, don't panic. Pause Milestone 3 for a moment and redirect those funds towards paying off your high interest debt. Once that's under control, you can resume saving for your emergency fund. These milestones are flexible, and they're meant to guide you through the ever-changing circumstances of life. It's not about achieving these milestones once and then forgetting about them. Think of them as your trusty financial compass, always available to guide you back on track. And there you have it, my roadmap to saving an emergency fund. Building an emergency fund takes time and dedication, but the peace of mind it brings is well worth every effort. In the next parts of this series, I'll share tips on how to bulk up your emergency fund fast and where to save and store it, so be sure to check out these videos. If this video was helpful to you, please like and subscribe to help it reach even more people. It would mean the absolute world to me. Thank you, and see you in the next video. Bye for now.